also in many ways a day that I hope will help clarify and improve things. Infosys is more than a company. It is an icon. It's an iconic institution. Continuous, allegations and continuous noise around the same things.
And we've gone one after another investigations. And after all the investigations have been completed, and we have found nothing, no shred of evidence to any of the allegations. We never went and said anything in public or picking up a battle.
Well, call it backseat driving, not being able to let go, or a board that has failed in preserving the company's legacy. Whichever side of the Infosys debate you stand on, one can't deny that the sequence of events that has begun after 9 this morning has shown both the board and the founders of one of India's largest IT companies in poor light. Hi, I'm Tamanna, and for all of you who have just joined in or for some reason have missed the biggest news of the day, Vishal Sikka has quit. Well, Vishal Sikka has quit after saying he couldn't take the allegations and accusations being made by the founders of Infosys, especially Narayan Murthy, anymore. But the resignation was just the first part of the story. Ayush Elavadi, in fact, is with us, and he's going to take us through what happened all day. Ayush, it's been a crazy news day with events just moving from one to the other at a crazy speed.
I know, right, Tamanna, it's been buzzing the newsroom. So I think it's important to take our viewers through exactly what happened today at Infi and all over completely. I think we'll go through a quick timeline of events because he certainly surprised everyone today with the bombshell of his resignation. It's been a crazy day for all of us, like Tamanna said. And just in case you did miss it, well, this is a quick review. It all started at 9:09 in the morning when Infosys informed the Bombay Stock Exchange of Sikka's decision to step down. Not surprisingly, the Infosys stock saw a 5% dip on opening bell. 15 minutes later, Sikka tweeted his goodbye, and with it a letter to employees of Infosys, which he published in his blog. It said he was sick of the personal attacks against him and that he had had enough. At 9:45, BloombergQuint spoke to former Infosys CFO Mohandas Pai, who said that Infosys was in need of deep reform. At 11:30, the Infosys board made a hard-hitting statement against founder Narayan Murthy, blaming him for Sikka's resignation. 10 minutes later, Sikka, along with the board, held an analyst con call to allay investor fears. In it, the board made its stance on NR Narayan Murthy very clear. There was no place for him left at Infosys. At 1:30 in the afternoon, Infosys investors panicked as the Infosys stock hit a 52-week low, taking 13% losses in intraday trade. About half an hour later, well, Infosys held a press conference which included the top management. Sikka further outlined the reasons for his exit while the board stood by him.
At some point you realize that this is taking a heavy toll on the organization. It is taking a heavy toll personally. And so I just felt that it is an untenable situation and I don't want to do this anymore. And it is also in the company's interest that with this kind of a change, we can make a fresh beginning and start all over again.
Our focus is to make sure that we do what is right by our customers, by our employees. We have no interest whatsoever in engaging in battle. In fact, if you have noticed and gone through the history of the last 18 months, we never went and said anything in public or picking up a battle. We've been responding, we've been reacting. Perhaps one of the charges against us is that we've been reacting for far too long, and we've been quiet for far too long. Now, because our focus was on running the business, it will continue to be to run the business.
Well, after that press conference, there was only one thing that everyone was waiting for, and by 2:15 in the afternoon, Murthy broke his silence, saying he was anguished by the tone and tenor of the Infosys board. 2 hours later, the founding father of Infosys released yet another statement clarifying his stance, saying governance issues at Infosys were his only concern. Well, take a deep breath, Tamanna. That's essentially what happened today.
Well, and it's not ended yet. Because there is so much commentary on where this is going to go from here, and we're going to get you more on that. But talking about Narayan Murthy, and of course, he has responded. He's not going to be quiet about it. And Sajid Mangat is now joining me from Bengaluru, which is the center of all the action this evening. Sajid, if you can hear me, if the Infosys board thought Mr. Murthy was not going to respond to their allegations, they were deeply mistaken. He has responded. In fact, I must tell all of people who are logging in that Sajid in Bengaluru right now is outside an event where Narayan Murthy is attending, and he's going to try and get the latest from him. Sajid, what is the sum and substance of Narayan Murthy's argument?
Try and understand. Okay, so there are a couple of points in Narayan Murthy's argument. The first one is that he is not against Sikka, and he didn't want Sikka's resignation. It was only about governance, and the standard of governance which has fallen since September 2015, and that's what he has been asking about. He said that the blame lies entirely on the board of Infosys, because the board of Infosys hasn't come through in a transparent manner. It hasn't disclosed or in a transparent manner all the investigations which have been, especially with respect to the whistleblowers letter, which Murthy has been referring at multiple times, and there. At that point in time, he has indicated that he was in discussion with even Mr. Seshasai at one point in time, and he told Mr. Seshasai to get an independent investigation done and not and involve people like Omkar Goswami or Marty Subramaniam to lead that investigation to clear the board, because the whistleblower was alleging was accusing not only the chairman of the board, he was alleging against the chairman of the audit committee, the CEO, the independent directors, all were including the legal head, all were under that, and that was the crux of what Mr. Murthy has been fighting for, saying that this investigation is something which needs to be disclosed to all shareholders, because he has always followed the maxim of when in doubt disclose, and despite this he has not been able to the board has not been able to disclose it openly to the shareholders, and not even convince any shareholder about what exactly is the what the issue here is. So it's been a long day here. Mr. Murthy was there in one of the functions here. He didn't speak anything on Infosys. All that we got to know was two statements that came in. In the first statement, he expressed anguish about the way the board has targeted him for asking for more governance and more transparency. And in the second one, he had brought in the letter of July 2017, where which he had written to the board asking for a detailed response on all these matters.
Right. In fact, those pictures that you're seeing over there are from a little while earlier when Narayan Murthy was entering an event. Sajid is there trying to get the first reaction from him at that spot. So we've heard both sides of the stories. Clearly, neither side is willing to back down, and it is highly unlikely this battle is going to end anytime soon. So what happens next? Menika Doshi is joining us now with that perspective. Menika, where do you see the story going from here?
All right, three answers to that question, or rather three questions in answer to that question. The first one being, what will Narayan Murthy do next? The second one being, who will be the next leader of Infosys? And the third one being, what does this say about India Inc., this entire episode? Let me try and give you some options for the first question, because we really don't know the final answers. What will Narayan Murthy do next? We don't know. But we do have the promise from him that he will do something next, because in the statement he released today, when he was responding to the very strongly worded statement put out by the Infosys board, in which the board had blamed Sikka's resignation on Mr. Murthy, Mr. Murthy said in that statement that I will reply in the right manner, at the right time or appropriate time, in the right forum. So he's promised a response, right? Within a short while after that, he did release his July letter that Sajid was referring to. That was a very, very detailed letter, and in that he has raised several questions about the variety of events that have taken place at Infosys. Let me point out, even in his short statement in which he says, look, I'm not going to respond now, but I will at the appropriate time, he brought up yet another problem that he had with the company, where he says that, several shareholders have said that they've read the whistleblower report and they tell me that it's hard to believe a report produced by a set of lawyers, hired by a set of accused, giving a clean chit to the accused, and the accused refusing to disclose why they got a clean chit. The reason I'm stressing on this is, in one part of the statement, he's saying, I'm not going to lower myself to respond to what the board has said. In the second part of the statement, he's saying, I will respond at the appropriate time. And the third part of the statement, he's already showing one of his responses by saying accused, referring to the board, and saying that several shareholders don't agree with what the investigation findings are. So what will Narayan Murthy do next? Something for sure. The second one, who will be the next leader of Infosys? You don't need me to tell you this. It's going to be tough to find the right guy. The right guy needs to be a mix of somebody who can be accepted by the many employees at Infosys, by the board at Infosys, and of course also by the co-founders of Infosys. He needs to be someone who has a vision for the technology business, given that the operating environment right now is so complex and so difficult that every Indian IT company is struggling to be able to retain clients and add to their order books, right? In finding the right guy, Infosys will go from what I'm calling a hate triangle, the hate triangle being the co-founders, the board, and Vishal Sikka, to being a weird quadrangle, because the co-founders aren't going anywhere, right? They're going to continue to have whatever issues they have with the company. The board ain't going anywhere. I think the board today made very clear that we are not resigning in any fashion. Vishal Sikka has been bumped up to executive vice chairman, or bumped down to executive vice chairman, however you want to put it. And now a new gentleman will come in, or a lady will come in to lead the company. So this is going to be some very uncomfortable corners that everybody will have to fit into.
Even more so if the name that is doing the rounds is the choice. I mean, a lot of people today are talking about Nandan Nilekani. I'm imagining how that quadrangle would look in that context.
Well, if it's Nandan, then he sort of aligns with the concerns that the current co-founders have, right? So maybe then it's not so uncomfortable. But I don't know how the current board would sit with Nandan, because obviously Nandan, if he comes in, would be the chairman of the board. So what happens then to Ravi Venkatesan and R. Seshasai? Do they gracefully exit? Then suddenly you have both chairman exiting, Vishal Sikka exiting, but Nandan coming back. And I'm glad you brought up Nandan, because that was the final question in answer to your question, which is that what does this say about the professional management of India Inc., right? This was the company that was supposed to be the company that was not run by promoter culture. Yes. I mean, Murthy, Nandan, they all made a big deal about walking away into the sunset, saying, hey, look, our children are not running this. We're not insisting we will continue running it till we drop dead. None of that. We're allowing professional management to take this company forward. That's exactly the point they made when they brought Sikka in. Now there is clamor for Nandan Nilekani to come back. So the first time Infosys was in a spot of bother, Murthy came back to try and save it. He brought in Vishal Sikka. Another spot of bother, and people are now saying Nandan should come back. So if Nandan does come back to save this company, it probably teaches us this lesson in India Inc. that investors, etc., all want professionally run companies, but I'm not comfortable with them. So I think those are the three questions in answer to your question about what happens next. I wish I had a shorter answer and a more final one.
No, but you had an interesting conversation earlier in the day with Anil Singhvi, and maybe we could see a portion of that, because that was also a very interesting perspective, what it says about India Inc., wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think Anil Singhvi, who's a well-known governance expert and the founder of proxy advisory firm IIAS, a couple of years ago, when Narayan Murthy had come back to Infosys, I remember in a show with me, had argued about why Murthy has come back and said that he didn't think that was the right thing to do. Today, in a show he was doing with me, he said that Nandan is probably the only person who can salvage the situation. Let's listen into what justification Anil Singhvi has, for this point of view.
That Nandan brings in two things. Nandan brings in a continuity of this whole situation, because I don't think the Infosys founders have been able to cut the
Nandan's
cord.
not been in the driving seat for a very long time, but I won't keep arguing that.
No.
MD and CEO or executive chairman?
I think chairman. He won't come as MD CEO,
Exactly,
so I will not pull
because
my...
that I think
No.
he's way past that now.
No, I think
so you're
it-
saying executive chairman.
I'm saying chairman.
Which essentially what happens then to the two chairmen right now that
I'm saying,
Infosys has?
first of all, I'm saying chairman. So you're reading unnecessarily into my mind. I'm not saying executive
You're
chairman.
not saying executive.
I'm saying chairman because he will fix the governance, he will fix all other external factors, get a CEO, and he becomes accountable because...
But this is lovely. Mr. Singh, you just spent some precious minutes, just a few minutes ago, arguing about how those who have left the company should leave the company for good. Now you're saying Nandan Nilekani is the only savior that this company has.
I'm not.
Next, somebody else will say Mr. Murthy should come back.
Why I'm saying this? For the simple reason that this board, either you fix this board completely, this board will not be able to give that kind of a cover which a new CEO will be needing it.
Would it take the return of someone like Nandan Nilekani for Infosys to restore confidence in its clients?
Well, it's a coincidence, really, and it's a happy coincidence, Menaka. But this morning, some foreign institutional investors were in touch with me on this issue, etc. And I said, your best bet today, and it's the best bet because of the messy situation we have got ourselves in, is if Nandan Nilekani can be persuaded to come back. But I don't think that will happen that easily. It'll probably not happen.
All right, so while the clamour has grown for Nandan Nilekani to come back and we're looking forward, let's rewind for just a bit. Because Sikka and the board blaming Narayan Murthy for his exit, that's what they're saying. The board is saying it's Narayan Murthy's fault, and they say that the constant allegations is what pushed Sikka to quit. Differences of opinion between the founders and the board began to surface in the public eye early this year. Here's a look at the sequence of events that has led to Sikka stepping down today. In June 2014, Narayan Murthy, co-founder of Infosys, presented Vishal Sikka to the world as the company's new CEO with great pride, even punning on the name Sikka, saying it means money in Hindi and it's exactly what Infosys needed. But the bonhomie didn't last long. A series of events has led to a bitter parting a little over 3 years later. In his resignation letter, Vishal Sikka has talked about being besieged by false, baseless, malicious, and increasingly personal attacks. A lot of these attacks, board members of Infosys claim, have originated from none other than Narayan Murthy himself. It all started in September 2016 when Infosys stopped paying the balance of a little over 17 crore rupees that Rajiv Bansal, former CFO, was to be paid because some of the company's founders expressed displeasure. The founders were also upset about Vishal Sikka's salary hike. Another key trigger to the acrimony was an anonymous letter by a whistleblower who claimed the acquisition of Israeli firm Panaya was overvalued. He also claimed then CFO Rajiv Bansal walked out of a meeting called to approve this acquisition. It was the severance pay of the very same Bansal which had Narayan Murthy raising questions, to the extent that the founder even asked whether hush money was paid to keep the matter quiet. The Infosys board responded by denying all allegations and instituting an internal inquiry. A truce was called, but it didn't last long. In April 2017, Narayan Murthy wrote a letter questioning 60 to 70% raises given to top management when most employees in Infosys had got just 6 to 8% pay hikes that year. He asked the question specifically of Praveen Rao, the COO, but it was clear that the board was being questioned on ethics once again. By June 2017, the internal investigation by Infosys had cleared the board of all wrongdoing in the Panaya case. On August 9th, Mint reported that Murthy wrote an email in which he claimed he was told by at least 3 independent directors of the company that Vishal Sikka was more Chief Technology Officer material than Chief Executive Officer material. There were also comments from Murthy saying he regretted quitting and asking top management to take pay cuts so that layoffs could be minimized. The Infosys board claims it was these unrelenting attacks that finally pushed Sikka out. So what next? What next for Infosys? What does this whole sequence of events say about this particular company and about India Inc.? And that one question that all of us are thinking about and not many of us are saying, how similar is this to what we saw in the Tata Group recently, just about last year, between Ratan Tata and Cyrus Mistry? There are a lot of parallels there. What does it tell us? What's the bigger story? To talk more about that, I'm joined now by G.N. Gupta. He's former executive director of SEBI, and corporate lawyer Suman Jyoti Khaitan also joins in on this conversation. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Mr. Gupta, just on the larger point, because a lot of people are trying to now understand, G.N. Gupta first, trying to understand what this all means and what it's telling us about how India Inc. works. Is this that narrative of a founder who can't let go at the end of the day? He's saying, no matter what, it's my company.
Here there are many issues. Let us go one by one. The first question is this: when the founders voluntarily step out and then after some time they find that it was their bad decision that they went out and they should come back. Now here you have to see that Mr. Murthy in one of the interviews said that it was his biggest regret that why he left Infosys. Now if we take that statement to be correct, then it appears that he is trying to create a scenario where he wants to come back to the board. If that is the true thing, then whatever all he's doing is certainly very wrong. Second is that you have to see that Mr. Murthy is today talking that three directors told him that Mr. Sikka is not a CEO material. Now it was Mr. Murthy who himself selected Mr. Sikka. So he should have counted those three directors that look, you are wrong. But if he's accepting it, then he's accepting his own mistake first. Then secondly, if he's listening to those directors, first of all, what right those independent directors have to talk about what is happening in the boardroom in the company to a person who is just a shareholder or a founder. The third is this, that wise men create a win-win situation. Here it is a situation where wise man is creating a loss-loss situation for everybody, be it Mr. Murthy, be it the board, be it Mr. Sikka, be it Infosys as a company, and be it as a shareholder. Everybody is on the losing thing. Now the issue is what he is hinting at. Is it bad governance? Now, governance can never be one person oriented because it is a board democracy.
No, Mr. Gupta, I know you've been in a lot of interviews all day and speaking a lot about this subject, but let me just narrow focus what I'm trying to ask you, because this is being looked at as a prism of that he is one of the founding members. He's been, Mr. Murthy I'm talking about, he's been with this company for a long time. It's his company, but he said he will let go. Is this a case of not being able to let go? And is there a similarity in what happened here and what happened in the Tata Group?
No, see, there are differences there. Here it is a question that he voluntarily stepped out and then he finds that probably it was a wrong decision. Whereas in Mr. Ratan Tata, in the Tata's case, it appears to be a different case where you feel that Mr. Mistry, that is what is happening, was working on an agenda which was different from the Tata's agenda. I cannot say for sure what is right or wrong, but that is what is in the public domain. But here it is a very simply that Mr. Murthy wants to control in Ratan Tata's case or Tata's case. Ratan Tata is still not in the control. Some professional is in control of Tata Sons. He is a chairman. So I would say that it is not exact parallel, but yes, there is a issue that in the boardroom this happens, that everybody after taking a decision may be regretting a decision and trying to reverse that.
Let me put it in a very sort of, Indian context, and Suman Jyoti Khaitan is also joining us, well-known corporate lawyer. It is like the patriarch sort of wanting to walk into the sunset because it sounds like the right thing to do, but not really being able to let go. Because that is definitely one way that people are looking at all of these events. And is that a fair assessment, Mr. Khaitan?
Well, according to me, one must make it very clear that either we are dealing with a private limited company or a public listed company in which the public also have a substantial interest. If we are dealing with a private limited company, this question need not be discussed at all. When we are dealing with a public listed company, which has huge exposure to the banks and also due to shareholders, I think Mr. Murthy, he's of course a very reputed man, a very great man, a great founder. He also owes an explanation that why did you choose Mr. Sikka? And if according to you something is wrong, there should be an investigation and the public must also know. Because it is not just a question of Mr. Murthy's shareholding. There's a huge shares which are held by the public at large. You see the market cap fell down by 30,000 crores. If it had been in a US company, there would have been a class action suit. Because just because somebody is controlling shares of 15%, it doesn't mean you can overlook the interests of the other shareholders.
You know, that's a very important point. And in fact, J.N. Gupta, with your SEBI hat and all your experience there, what was the fault of the shareholder? If at the end of the day, we are coming to the conclusion that this is an ego tussle between two big leaders and one can't let go or the other is not taking, you know, the company forward in the way, whatever it may be, the shareholder has suffered?
No, I'm saying, see, here is a very typical situation. A person who is himself holding 3.5% and assuming that he has support of all other founders, it is only 12.5 or maybe 15%. Now, rest 85% have no problem, because if you see last 6 months back, the most of the financial institutions and FII has supported the current management and Sikka, and they said no problem. So even if it goes to the shareholders, the shareholder will have the same issue. They will continue with the board. Now, the issue is that why Mr. Murthy wants to impose a decision on the board using indirect method. If he wants, he should come to the boardroom and say, I want to stand for the directorship, and let the shareholder decide. I would say that a small minority cannot take 85% of the shareholder to the hostage. And that is what is happening.
Okay, so J.N. Gupta, they're making it very clear what side of this debate he's on. He's saying that you're taking 85% of the shareholders hostage. But Mr. Khaitan, if you look at the argument from the other side, Mr. Narayan Murthy today says that I'm not fighting for power or position or for my children to get some post or money. I'm fighting for what the soul of this company is and for what I think is right. He's pitching his fight as a moral fight. Does that have no place in this entire debate?
No, as a promoter, shareholder, and also a founder, and also because it's a public listed company, he has a right to say what is wrong, but let him tell the public what is wrong. Merely pointing and saying that's wrong, is that enough? Or should we tell the people what is wrong? Please listen and argue it out. What is wrong? Please tell me. Does the public know what is wrong? Or is he the sole judge?
Okay, I'm just going to end with one larger question to Mr. Sumanjyoti Khaitan and Mr. J.N. Gupta. Mr. Khaitan first. What does this say about our succession plan? Because, you know, you cannot divorce the two big examples we've seen, the Cyrus Mistry, Ratan Tata fracas, which we saw all of last year, and now Sikka and Narayan Murthy. Different situations, of course, but some similarities. Successor is chosen by the mentor walks away and then comes back and says, hey, it's not really going right. What does it say about succession plans in India Inc.?
Well, what this really shows is that even Infosys, for all its value, ultimately remains a closely held company controlled by just maybe one or maybe two individuals. So why do you blame the Lala companies? Then he's behaving the same way. So what lesson is he holding out to the India Incorporated or to the foreign investors as a whole? Is the Indian industry or is the Indian business captain, have they matured? Or they think it is just their own empire which they have to protect? That's the larger question, I think.
Okay, Mr. Gupta, your comment on that point, is that the larger question, that have we been able to move to professionally run managements, or is that mentality still there, that I founded the company and I have the last word and I am sort of the patriarch of the company?
I would say even in professionally managed company, professionals are not ready to let go. The two classic examples are ITC and L&T,
well,
where it is professionally managed company and people still want to stick by one way or another. And that I would say that it is not only the Lala company or promoter-oriented company, it is all companies. Once I am in control, it's very difficult for me to leave.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have to know when to let go, but difficult to pass judgments on which side is right in a situation like this. It has been a very eventful day, though. Thank you so much, Mr. J.N. Gupta and Mr. Sumanjyoti Khaitan, for joining us on this conversation. But moving on now, what has happened to the stock? Let's take a look at that, because if there is a word to explain the impact of Sikka's resignation to Infosys stock, it is damaging. The stock fell roughly 10% in intraday trade, and our speaker spoke about the shareholder losing immense value today. But is it all lost? Because is there hope? Remember, there is a buyback, and tomorrow the share buyback is expected to lift the stock in the coming week. But how will Infosys share react to Sikka's exit, both in the short term and long term? Neeraj Shah is now with us with all of those answers.
Well, what's next for the stock can be split into two time frames. One, what happens on Monday, and the buyback announcement could well shore up the stock, though you don't know if the institutional selling continues. So that is one. But two, what happens to the stock and the company over the medium term is probably the more difficult question. If they find a CEO in a hurry, which the market likes, then great, all is well. But that's a difficult thing, quite frankly. Ravi Venkatesan in the analyst call said that it requires some courage for the new CEO to come in. That promises to be a difficult task. But just two or three things. We spoke to a lot of large asset management companies and insurance firms who own the stock sitting out of India, and all of them had to say the same thing. It remains a ship without a captain, and people wouldn't want to climb such a ship. So that's the general sentiment of investors, and we're not even talking about clients here. Sudeep Apte of Offshore Consulting was with us earlier in the day, and he mentioned that he will tell his clients not to give further orders to Infosys. His clients are also Infosys clients, and they would take his advice. And imagine if one consultant is saying that, maybe some of the others could do that as well. So this is the first sighting of a real battle, of a long-drawn battle, and it may only do excessive damage if they do not find a suitable replacement in time.
All right, there's a board meeting tomorrow. Of course, you have to tune into BloombergQuint.com for all the latest on that. They're going to discuss the buyback, what happens to the stock on Monday. We're all over this story. But before we go, we want to leave you with how Twitterati was at its best. Buzzing completely on the whole Sikka stepping down story, and Murthy. We leave you with some of the best tweets we could find today on the entire saga. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.